So, welcome. Everybody comfortable, having good seats, having good stuff. Let's get started. First of all, welcome. We're going to talk about recording engineers today. Anybody got your hands up on their Facebook right now? Let me tell you, I'm actually working on my graduate degree right now. When this came out, we spent half of the 3-hour class making jokes about this, so it was fabulous. I'll forward it to you guys because you're already qualified to be recording engineers when we're done with these sessions. So, submitting questions. This is not going to be one of those lectures where I'm going to tell you to put away your phones and your computers. In fact, one of the things I want to do, just in case I get going and I don't get a chance to get all your questions, I've got my email address and a Twitter address up here. So during the talk, if you feel moved and you feel you need to go ahead and shoot me a question on Twitter or to my Facebook, and then afterwards what I'll do is I'll collect all the questions if I don't get them, or even if I do, and send it out in email format so everybody can see all the answers and recall them afterwards. Okay? It's kind of like having a parking lot. It's something you find in a lot of corporate meetings. They say, let's put it in the parking lot. We're not going to deal with it right now. Well, we can deal with it. We're going to go virtual because this is a technology appointment, right? So, who am I? Besides the funny-looking guy playing the purple guitar, because I know I haven't met most of you. Yeah, not most of you. Really haven't met most of you. Who am I? Well, here I'm the manager of venue usage and audience development for the university, which is a really big job, and we're all still trying to figure out what it means. A couple of big things I'm in charge of, though. I'm kind of the point of interface for outside groups that want to come use the building for things, outside rentals. I handle event planning, I handle scheduling, things like that, and also audience development. I'm the guy who's got the big job of making sure people come to our theater shows and our concerts. So that's what I do here. I started at Seton Hill University here in town. I'm not from Pittsburgh originally, but I graduated with a degree in music technology from Duquesne. And you're going to say, why music technology? Somebody say that.
Why music technology?
Great, good question. I'm glad you asked that. I actually started as a vocal performance major, and I have continued to be a singer my whole life. However, I wanted to have a job, and I didn't think there was a lot of people that really valued, Bachelor of Music and operatic performance as a resume builder. It's good, but technology was a fun way to kind of take it somewhere further. As I mentioned, I am working on a master's degree right now. Why am I doing a master's degree, you might say? Oh, good. So you guys are getting this already. This is good. I know you guys are music ed students because you can follow like the hints along the way. Because my long-term goal, career goal, just this year, is to do more stuff like this. I would like to teach music technology because, in addition to using it, it's something I get a little bit excited about, as you're going to find out in about the next 45 minutes. A little bit excited. My background, I spent 6 years with WQED-FM here in town as a field producer. What does that mean? I went out and recorded concerts, edited them, made them sound pretty, and put them on the air. So that's part of my professional background. I also spent 8 years working for a small company called Guitar Center, which is the largest national chain in MI retail. I worked both as a retail manager for 4 years, running one of their stores, about $5 million a year in sales, and a couple of years working as a GC Pro consultant. And what that position means is rather than being the guy standing behind the counter just in the regular retail stores, I would work with a place like Seton Hill when they wanted to build a place like this and help them design the system, pick the things out, do something that's on a large scale. Some of my clients in town include Manchester Craftsman's Guild down in the north side. You don't know them, they're a venue and record label. We've got 4 Grammys under their belt, Grammy winner in Pittsburgh, if you didn't know about. I also did some work with NBC 10 in Philadelphia when they refit their studios. I'm also an endorsing artist for a company called SE Electronics. They make lots of cool accessories and really amazing microphones, and that's something I just needed to brag about because it's cool. So apologies for my little moment. So I wanted you guys to know who you're talking to because, again, I don't know you, you don't know me. So, what are we talking about today? Can anybody tell me? Music technology. Well, we don't teach that here. So, what's music technology? What do you think? What are we really talking about when we talk about music technology? Go ahead, Mike.
Sound recording or different
technological instruments. Sure, I like that. Sound recording. Actually, let's change the paradigm of the question a little bit. Not what are we talking about today? We know we're talking about music technology. What comes to mind first thing when we say music technology? Anybody? Go ahead. Microphones, my favorite thing. I love them. Soundboard?
Just the recording studio.
Recording studios? Soundboard. Okay. Anything else? It's a good list, right? It's a good start. I like it. What we're going to talk about now, does everybody feel real confident in their ability to use those things properly? No. Mm-hmm. In fact, it can be a little intimidating, right? I know when I started, little freshman voice major me, well, formerly voice major me, changed it, and all of a sudden it's like, here, sit in front of this recording console. I was like, whoa, buttons, knobs, driving a submarine here, right? So what we're really talking about with these classes, okay, what we're going to aim at is to change your perspective about music technology. And why are we going to change your perspective a little bit? Well, anybody seen something like this before? Music technology lab, right? How about something like this? Anybody got an iPad? Right? That's a big deal here, the iPad. The iPad, right? Anybody use your iPad a lot? Not as much as you should, right? How about places like these? Right? Recording studios, doing mixers. There's the submarine control panel, right? Okay? It's a little scary. And honestly, when you don't know what they do, places like this, look, they kind of feel like that. Right? Lots of wires plugged in everywhere, and you don't really know what to do with them. Yeah. It would be cool to know what to do, right? You also have a picture of the guy slumped over the board. It's cool. All right, cool. So, that's what we're talking about. Who are you guys? Well, we opened this up to a lot of different people, and there's a reason I'm asking this. Because you guys may be music teachers. Are you music teachers? Oh, that guy. You could be music therapists. Ooh. It could be a big blank screen. You could be a composer. Anybody composing? Writing songs, writing music? Okay. How about stage managers? Do we have any theater people that showed up? No? No stage managers. Okay. You could be all those people. You could even be a rock star. Okay? That could be all of you. And honestly, all of you need to use music technology. We're in a music building, right? Something that's going to have a practical application for all those categories and a lot more because, well, why is it important? Let's find out. You need to be conversant with the technologists you interact with. Okay? We're all music ed students. Who wants to direct a band and they're all grown up and teaching? Anybody want to direct a school band? Bands? Orchestras? Choirs? Okay. Anybody ever think you might want to have your concert recorded? The more you know about music technology, the more you can talk to the guy or girl recording your concert and know what you're talking about. Okay? Who performs? Anybody perform here? Okay? Anybody ever perform with a sound guy? Where the guy was running the sound and making the speakers go? Ever get frustrated because you couldn't hear well, but you didn't really know what to say, how to talk to them? This is why you need to know about music technology. Okay? You're going to interact with these technology people in your life. Utilizing cutting-edge technology to enrich the student or patient experience. Music tech and music therapy, both of you. Let's talk about something here for a second. Anybody ever studied learning theories at all in education? It's a big guy named Bloom, Benjamin Bloom. He's kind of like one of the forefathers of how we teach now. He had this thing, a big pyramid-looking guy, that talked about the different levels of skills you could have that explained how well you understood information. Now, if I had to ask you what's the weakest way to explain whether or not you know something, what would you say? That'd be like the multiple choice test, right? Did you remember it or could you spit it back out? Okay? Anybody ever have to give or take a music theory test like that? What is this key signature? Right? Multiple choice, that sort of stuff. Real easy. It's just like pick it, spit it out. Okay? The best way to prove you know something is to create something with it. How much more will your students learn? And how much more will they enjoy your music theory class if it's about writing a song and recording a song that they can then play for mom and dad, aunts and uncles, and grandma's going to slip them a $5 bill because it's so cute that they made a song. It's great. It's interesting. It's much more interactive. For a music therapist, same deal. Imagine helping somebody, music therapist dealing with somebody who's been a victim of something, that had a trauma, they've had a situation, and they're recovering it by expressing themselves, and they can record a song. Powerful, right? Enhance the experience of your worship community. Anybody work in a church or any sort of sacred music ever? Okay? The number one complaint you will ever get in a church is, I can't hear, or it's too loud, or it's too soft, or whatever. The better it sounds. If you look at what's going on in liturgical music today, the places that are growing, right? Who's been to like one of the big super churches with the TVs and the lights and the whole thing? Man, I'll tell you, most of my clients, when I was installing major systems, were these kinds of places because that attracts people. It's exciting, right? It's energizing. So that's why we need to know about it. Sharing your musical vision with the larger audience. Okay? Who's got a YouTube account? Okay? Cool. Anybody got a SoundCloud account? You may know what SoundCloud is. Very cool little place to post your music. Facebook? Anybody? Post your song on Facebook? Okay. Before it gets to Facebook, SoundCloud, MySpace, guess what? You got to record it, okay? Using technology. Oh, and by the way, it's just fun, okay? It really is, I promise. Let's talk about some people that have had a huge impact in music technology. Anybody know who this guy is? He looks like Bach, but he's standing in front of a bunch of wires and buttons. Anybody? Anybody know? It's a big music history thing, too. Not PDQ, but you're very close. This is switched on Bach. This is Wendy, sometimes Walter Carlos.
I should just write it. It's right there.
Wendy Carlos, performing on the Moog synthesizer. In fact, he was the pioneer of the Moog. Moog was this big thing that would probably fill this whole room. You had to plug in all kinds of wires and stuff like that. And he got famous for doing this album, Switched on Bach, the best-selling electronic music album of all time. Also did the soundtrack for Stanley Kubrick's creepy movie, The Clockwork Orange. Creepy, it was. Anybody know who this guy is?
Is that Les Paul?
That's Les Paul, great, gold star. Les Paul, everybody thinks of Les Paul, they think of what? The thing he's holding, right? The thing he's famous for? Guess what? Les Paul also was the inventor of modern recording. The idea of overdub. So let's say you're a singer and you're doing a recording with a pianist, and we record the piano player first, and then we go back and record the vocal over it. Okay? He came up with that idea. In fact, he came up with it because he and his wife really liked to sing together and do recordings together, but he couldn't play and sing and have her playing and sing and not anybody running the mixing board. Okay? He invented that sort of stuff. He also invented effects like delay. Anybody ever heard of anybody know what a delay is? Okay? Yeah. Okay, he invented that stuff. Here's one. How about this guy? Kind of huge, right? And when we think of Steve Jobs, the first thing we think about, honestly, is what? iPads, iMacs, computers, right? Okay, and that's huge. Anybody watch the Grammys this year? Okay, during the Grammys, every year they do the big tribute to the people we've lost in the last year. People we lost, people that music lost. And Steve Jobs is up there. Anybody tell me why? What does Steve Jobs have to do with music? I'll tell you what. He was the co-founder of Apple, but he revolutionized music distribution with iTunes. The time that iTunes came out, music was getting downloaded for free like crazy. Okay, musicians couldn't make money because it was piracy. It was, what was it, Napster? You remember Napster and all the lawsuits about Napster? Anybody see the movie The Social Network?
Sean Parker.
Yes. Selling music for free. You're all musicians, right? Do you want to write something and not get paid because your art, your time, stuff you put your soul into is out on the internet for free? Steve Jobs fixed it. He came up with a way to standardize the formatting of music and standardize the way it gets bought. Okay? That's why now you buy CDs anymore. I do. They sound better. But, you know, he came up with that. How about, what does every laptop, every computer come with if you buy an Apple? GarageBand. This is the first time a major company actually put music production software as something that just comes with your computer. This was a guy who was very passionate about music technology. In fact, GarageBand gets a really bad rap. Okay? It does. When people like me, music tech people, because we go, oh, it's so easy, it can't be any good. I gotta tell you, GarageBand is an incredibly powerful tool for writing, producing, coming up with ideas, whatever. It's fun. It's a great teaching tool. Okay? And we'll talk about it over these next couple of sessions. But he's huge. What do they all have in common? Well, that was a good guess. Let's dig a little deeper though. Beyond music technology, what do those three people really have in common? Who do we have? We had Wendy Walter, Les Paul, and Steve Jobs.
They all reinvented ways that people use music technology.
Right, they found something different. Okay, they took technology and had a huge impact on how music and technology interact with each other. This brings me back to that question we talked about before. If we were to boil it down, because I heard microphones and speakers and mixing boards, and we've talked about GarageBand, we still haven't really said what music technology is or does, right? Because it could be anything. Is it my phone, you know, with the ringtones? Is it the computer recording this whole lecture? Here's a suggestion. Music technology is comprised of a wide range of devices that have a very simple set of goals. It sounds complex, but it isn't. They all do very similar, very related things. Put simply, music technology devices perform one of these functions. These are what they do. Okay? Number one, They capture music. Anybody want to tell me something that captures music? Microphone. Perfect. You put the microphone up, something happens, it hears it. We captured the sound. Beautiful. We reproduce or generate sound. We're going to take a stab. How do we reproduce or generate sound? Speakers. Beautiful. Perfect, right? We've got the CD, the MP3, whatever it is. We need to hear it. We're reproducing that sound through a speaker or through generation. Anybody ever play with a synthesizer? A keyboard? Right? It's making sound. Okay? It's actually generating a sound. We store sound. Anyone want to take a stab at how we store sound? What was that? Yeah, okay. So you can an MP3 encoder, like a player, like an iPod. Anybody else? That's a great example. Let's go old school. How about a record player, right? For us old people, I love vinyl. Vinyl sounds great. Tape machines, 8-track, CD, right? We're storing music. And the last one is we manipulate it, okay? We take sound and we change it. That is all music technology does, those 4 things. Okay? We can break down all these toys into those categories. Seems simple now, right? A little easier, a little clearer? Okay. So what is sound? Anybody want to tell me? Sound is a vibration, okay? You play a violin, how do you get sound with a violin? Go ahead.
The bow vibrates.
Right, you put the bow, the string vibrates. How about a timpani? How does a timpani work? You hit it, okay? Guitar. Okay? We can go on and on and on. How do you make noise? How do you make sound with your voice? These guys get going, right? It's all about setting into motion a cycle of molecules. Molecules are everywhere, okay? Sound can flow through solids, okay? You can run it through a solid object, you can run it through a liquid, you can run it through air. Most of the time it's through air, right? Sound going through air right now. Vibration happens. There's our speaker. This is a great drawing. I love this. I did not do this drawing. Speaker, it vibrates, it makes noise. Molecules get moving sooner or later. Ends up in your ear, okay? So vibration set into motion, a cycle of molecules getting closer together and further apart. In fact, let's do this. Okay. So let's say I am the speaker, because that's what I am today. I am the speaker at this lecture, right? And we want to talk about making a sound. Well, I come up, and I go like this, and I push the molecule next to me over, and it goes that way, and it pushes her over a little bit. Watch how it goes. And then he's going to bounce back, because they don't want to be standing too close to the molecules next to them. Okay? And it gets all the way down to Miss Campbell, and now she hears it. Wasn't that great? Oh, he's the listener. See how sound works? That's it. What if it goes the other way? You be the speaker. Push it back. Okay, sound's going back. Now we're having a conversation. This is you guys talking to me. Oh, I heard the sound. That's how sound works. Great, sit down. Thanks for not hurting each other. But that's how sound works. We have 2 parts of what happens in the sound event, okay? We're going to call part number 1 compression, okay? The molecules got closer together. Remember that? Remember that part of the demonstration? You push the person next to you, you lean in, you give them a shove. We call that compression, okay? What happened after that? Ooh, you smell funny. I don't want to hear you. I'm stepping away. We call that rarefaction. Okay? See it? Rarefaction. Moving closer together, moving farther apart. That's what a sound does. What do we call this cycle? It goes through a cycle. It happens again and again. It doesn't just happen once and stop. It keeps going. Go ahead.
Frequency.
That's a good term. It's not quite the one we're looking for. We'll talk about frequency in a minute. Anybody else? Good answer. We call the cycle a wave. That's a very good sound. That's like a really good performer when they can wave like that. Wow, that's that wave. No. Really what we're talking about is a sound wave. Okay? This is all we hear. Now what we're looking at here, one single line, very simple. Okay, this is a very simple sound. This is kind of like, anybody ever played with like an old synthesizer or oscilloscope or anything like that that just makes a real pure sound? It's kind of dead. It's got that single pitch to it. This is a pure sound wave. Okay? Now, this is it. It starts here. This was me pushing the row at the end over there. See this? Miss Campbell, hearing it at the other end. That's the sound wave. Sound wave has to go through a complete cycle before it's actually heard. Okay? It goes up. We see this word here, what's it say? Compression, right? Getting closer. Rarefaction. gets farther apart, that's your sound wave. That's all we're talking about when we talk about music technology, that single little line. You know, you're very skeptical. Very, very skeptical. That's all it means. So we need some ways to talk about this sound wave, right? Because what does it mean to you right now? Spooky line. Okay. We need a couple of things. We need to go a little more in depth. Here's one. Frequency. Who said frequency? I heard frequency earlier. That's a great term. We're going to talk about frequency. This is high frequency. Look at that. Lots of them happening really fast over and over and over again. I won't make you demonstrate it. I know if we do it really fast, everybody's going to fall over. That's a low frequency. This is a wavelength. Okay? Remember how we talked about we had that straight line? What did that straight line look like? It goes up to the top and down to the bottom and back up. We measure the wavelength of a sound wave from two different points, either from the lowest point or the highest point. So a wavelength, see? Top to top and bottom to bottom. Those are two things we need to know to talk about a sound wave. What is the wavelength? What is the frequency? Okay? I'll explain in a second. We ever seen those? Do we still use those, or is that too old school? We need to have like a digital tuner now, the beats, or can we still use them? When I came through college, it was all about tuning to work. Choir at Duquesne, radio already. Oh yeah, all that here. What does it mean when we say A440?
Hertz.
440 hertz, good answer. We recognize the frequency of 440 hertz as the pitch A. What's a hertz? Hertz is not what happens when we do the pushing exercise and somebody falls over. Wrong hertz. Okay? Hertz equals cycles per second. How many times up, down, back to zero? That happens in a second on that sound wave. Remember the picture of the sound wave? How many times that happens in seconds is hertz. Humans can hear from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So now you know what your hearing range is. So 20 of these in a second. I'm not going to do that 20 times. That would just be silly and I look like I'm in a theater class. Shh, we love theater people. I am one. Or 20,000 hertz. Okay? So that's when we start talking about frequencies. Okay? That's your frequency. When we say frequency, the frequency is 440 hertz, or the pitch A. Okay? Now, more hertz. Which direction does the pitch go? Up. Less hertz? Excellent. You remember that? Good. We're probably getting your practice in. Those kinds of questions. They ask you about this stuff. Basics of sound. Higher pitch, lower pitch. Higher number of hertz, lower number of hertz. Okay? Very good. By the way, that hearing range is why you need to protect these, because over time we lose the ability to hear. It starts out at the end and moves towards the mid. We'll cover that a little bit more. So that explains pitch. Every note has a pitch, right? What else does every note need to have? Volume, right? We need to talk about volume. And volume we call amplitude, okay? More intense waves have more energy, okay? They jump higher. Let's pretend that those peaks and valleys is like a guy jumping, okay? The higher they jump, the louder it is. We call it amplitude, okay? And we don't actually hear amplitude, we hear changes in amplitude. Amplitude's not a solid thing. Amplitude is not like a pitch. It's volume, we hear it. Our ears recognize it as a change from where we are to the sound now. But now. Okay? So the amplitude is all about those molecules squishing. The more we squish, the louder the sound is. How loud is it? Well, here's a little chart. This chart is great. So, first of all, we measure sound as the decibel. Anybody ever heard that term? dB, decibel? Okay. What is a dB? Anybody tell me? A decibel equals 1/10 of a bell, as my former professor in college told me. 1/10 of a bell, that was the answer. Decibel. Bell came from Alexander Graham Bell. Heard of that guy? Yep. He's great. He was smart. But it doesn't measure something concrete. It's not like saying, I've got a pound of potatoes. That's a solid thing. You can touch a pound, okay? A decibel, like I said, when we talk about volume, when we talk about amplitude, what are we actually measuring? Change. Change from where it was, change to where it goes. So what we really want to talk about, to be useful, talking about volume, is SPL level. How much air, that's sound pressure level by the way, how much air pressure is applied to whatever's hearing? You know, how much pressure is that sound wave generating? How hard is it pushing you? We need to demonstrate pushing again? No. How hard is it pushing from one end to the other? Whether it's your ears, a microphone, whatever is picking up the sound, how much pressure? We consider 0 dB SPL to be silent. It is the threshold of hearing. Anything below 0, we don't hear it. Okay? 140 dB SPL is the threshold of pain. That is right where it starts to hurt. Anybody ever had that experience? Rock concert, standing next to the bass drum, jet engine, okay? In fact, we got some ideas here. So, 0, threshold of hearing. 10 dB is a broadcast studio. You rock at a studio watching them record the news. Recording studio, my favorite place. 20 dB all the way up to, where was it? Airport, 110 dB. So if you were just standing outside of an airport, 110 dB, you got about 30 more increments to go before it starts to hurt. Okay? So, what have we talked about so far? Pitch. What's pitch measured by? Hertz. And hertz means? Cycles per second. Excellent. And that's how we decide the pitch. Loudness is amplitude, right? And how high and how low we go in that sound wave. Unequal loudness principle. It's actually the equal loudness principle back on in the little parentheses there, because it's something you need to understand about sound. We don't hear all pitches, all frequencies the same way. We don't, okay? So what? Anybody want to know so what? Why can't I hear the tubas? Anybody know? Have you ever noticed that when you go? I mean, I know it feels like the tuba's really loud, but if you go to a concert and there's like 3 tubas and 50 of everybody else, have you ever noticed the tuba gets loud, period? In fact, even if there's equal numbers, let's say you've got a quartet, 1 tuba, 3 other dudes. Tuba's kind of hard to hear. It doesn't feel like he's as loud as everybody else.
Well, then why do you have in bands, why do you have 1 tubas?
Because you don't know better. Sonically. Musically, it balances out nicely, but realistically, when we're talking about equal volume, it makes a difference. How about this one? Why are the sopranos so loud?
Because we're all divas.
Because you're divas. Right. The truth of the matter is, lower pitches require more amplitude to be heard equally. In fact, it's something like 4 times. So for every flute, you actually need about 4 tubas for it to actually be measured out as an equal level of sound. Think of that. Drummers in the room? Anybody play drums? Ever notice that the kick drum on a drum set's the hardest part to hear, but you hear the snare real easy? You can hear the snare from the other side of the building. Somebody's playing a kick drum over there, you're not going to hear it. That's why. Lower pitches require more amplitude. So when you're building your band, what should you actually do? If you want it to sound perfectly equal, we want more tubas, more French horns, more euphoniums, right? Okay. And if you require to actually balance out, a couple of sopranos won't kill you. Congratulations to all you altos. We hear you the best. The human ear actually hears much better at the middle frequencies than the high end and the low.
Oh. This is really
All right. One more thing we need to know about sound wave. Phase. Anybody tell me what a phase means? No. Okay. I'll give you a hint. We're not talking about those. Is that too old? Is that okay. Cool. We're talking about this. More squiggly lines. Okay? How to hide the struggling musician in your ensemble is the subtitle for this idea. So phase. There's our sound wave up at the top. It goes up, it comes down, it goes up, it comes down. Okay? Here's our other sound wave. When that guy goes up, this guy goes down. Up, or down, up, down, up, down, up. See how it's the exact opposite? What do you suspect would happen if we put those two together? It would look like that. And it's not DNA. I promise you it's not DNA. What do you think would happen? What would it sound like? It would sound like nothing. It would actually cancel each other out. You're exactly right. You can tell me why? Okay. Let's think about it this way. Sound is a cycle of molecules doing what? getting closer and getting further away. But if we've got two people, one guy's pushing it in, compressing it with a certain amount of force, and the other guy's pulling it out with the exact amount of force, it's like watching two guys arm wrestling and it's not going anywhere. Okay? So, if you've got somebody really bad in your band, or your choir, or your orchestra, hold them upside down. I'm kidding. You don't. You can try it. It might work. But yes, flip the phase. Okay? Why is this important? Well, because different parts of different sounds may be out of phase. Anybody ever stand in a concert and realize that they can hear certain parts really well, but other parts not so well? It's because of this guy, phase. Okay? We can use phase. Any guitar players in the room? Anybody play guitar? A little bit? There's these great little pedals that they sell for electric guitars. They're called phasers. And a phaser does this. That's what it does. It doesn't do it so it can completely disappear, but it picks for certain parts of the sound disappear. Okay? So it's something we need to be aware of when we're doing all those things that music technology is supposed to be able to do, which was capture, right? If we're capturing sound, we want to make sure we're capturing it at the same time so that everything lines up and we don't lose sound. Good example of that. I did an internship at a company that made CDs, and they did actual restoration. And they would take these old recordings, like big, thick records that only had one size, like phonograph records, and they'd make them into CDs. And, for example, most of those recordings, anybody seen a phonograph? It's got the big, thing sticking out of the top with the big one, right? Or old radios, one speaker, before it was stereo. And they would try to put these recordings into stereo, two speakers, left and right, and they'd find out that the phase was off. What would happen? Well, for example, they did a recording when I was there. They were working on a transparent recording that was a concerto. And when they put it out to stereo, the solos completely disappeared. Out of phase. Okay? Phase can be caused by a lot of things. Where you put your microphones, where you're hearing it from in the room. It can be everything, including the cables being wired backwards from each other. If you had two microphones and the cables were wired backwards, you'd have reverse phase. Okay? So that's why it's important to know about phase. So, what do we need to know about sound waves? Frequency, which is hertz. Yeah, and what does it actually measure? The pitch. Great. We need to know about amplitude, which is, and we need to know about, are all our sounds in phase with each other? Okay? Are they working together or are they working apart? Funny things can happen with phase. So that's what happens if they cancel each other out. They're exact opposites from each other. Okay? What if they were just a little bit out of the way? Well, sometimes we can get things called sympathetic vibrations. It's kind of like if they're a little bit off, and this peak right here lands somewhere near that peak up there, they kind of have a little high peak party, and they start making lots of those noises. Anybody notice that certain rooms have certain sounds? You walk into a room and the room sounds real bassy. Whereas a lot of, in the middle just feels like it's there. Or, if somebody was whispering on the other side of the room, that whisper, those S's, those frequencies just jump right out of you. This is why. Okay? We're having little frequency parties. Darn those sound waves not behaving. That's why we need music technology. We need to make them behave themselves. Right? Come on. It's okay. I'll admit it. I thought it was too. This is boring, and why do I need to know this? Anybody want to guess? Frequency, pitch, amplitude, loudness, phase. Are all my sounds coming to their concluding point at the same time? Here's the question. Everybody knows that, right? If you didn't know that, could you do that? That's why we're talking about these basic principles today. Okay? What can we do knowing about these basic principles? How about some of this? Recording. It's fun and you have the tools. Everybody has a MacBook here, right? No? Most people?
Yes.
Okay. Guess what? You have GarageBand. Those of you who don't, take it from your neighbor. They can share. We're a Catholic school. We share. We help our neighbors out, right? Okay. GarageBand's a great tool. It does recording. You can record yourself. Anybody ever record your lessons? I know, it sucks. You hate it. It's painful, but it's useful, right? Okay. Anybody ever record your students' lessons? How about a concert you're in? How about that song, that idea you wake up with that you want to capture? Guess what? You've got a MacBook, you got the tool. You can get it for your iPad too. You can walk around with your iPad and have a recording studio thinner than a notebook. Crazy stuff. It's fun, and you've got the tool. Has your audience heard you lately? You're going to be a music teacher. I know it's kind of washed out. It's a concert. But you're a music teacher, and you've got a high school musical coming up. Right? Anybody want to hear the singers? The more you know about this stuff, the more you're going to be able to do that right. Okay? The band, the orchestra, the soloist, the concert, the whatever. Okay? The lecturer coming in and talking who doesn't have a big giant voice like I do. Might need the microphone so that you can hear it. So, the bottom line to all of this is we're going to take what we learned today, which was frequency, which is what? Pitch. Amplitude. How loud is it? And is it all getting there at the same time? Well, we're going to learn about all these technology items. So, just to tell you what's coming up, session 2, we're going to talk about technologies for performance and recording. So we're going to talk about sound reinforcement. These are the speakers we use to make things louder when we're listening to it. Okay? That's the PA in the concert hall. That's the little amplifier you use for your guitar. Okay? Making it loud. Recording. Everybody's excited about recording. In fact, if you're lucky, I'll bring my recording studio. It'll be fun. I like to play with toys. Digital versus analog. It's amazing to think that, 15 years ago, we were using reel-to-reel tape to do recording, and now that computer right there can do it for you. Everything that you used to need, a room full of things with buttons and knobs, and it's all in your computer, digital. Well, why do people still use analog? Do people still use analog? We're going to talk about it. And then virtual instruments. This is a great topic, virtual instruments. Who can tell me what a virtual instrument is? Go ahead.
I would say like from finale or...
Yeah. Okay. I will tell you that every musician since the dawn of time, every time a new tool comes out, this is true, has said, oh my God, there's not going to need to be musicians anymore. Okay? It's good for us to understand virtual instruments and MIDI because there has never been a tool that has replaced the soul of the musician. And that's why you need to understand virtual instruments. It's just a tool to help you make more music. Okay? That's, your music student who's got the idea for this, the little geeky kid. We were all that little geeky kid, right? Remember? Remember being that little geeky kid in music class in middle school and you wanted to write your song? Virtual instruments let you have a band. Because nobody wants to be in your band. You're the little geeky kid. That was me. Okay? Session 3. We're going to talk about how to put it all together. Multimedia. How do we put it in the classroom? How do we use it for our concerts? How does it make us a better teacher, a better music therapist, a better performer? Software and hardware. There's ways to do both. Okay? Sometimes it's the computer. Sometimes it's Finale. We talked about Finale. I heard that a couple times. Anybody ever seen Microsoft Songsmith? Great program. Check it out. It's a little song where you can choose a style of music, and it's got this big database of like backup piano parts and horn parts and drum beats, and you can actually sing with a microphone into the computer your melody. It'll notate it and then generate a backup part. How cool is that for a classroom tool? That's what Microsoft designed it for. Not to give us an easy way out of learning music theory, but to get us excited about songs, make it happen fast. That's a great software. Hardware piece. Do we know how to use a microphone? Do we know what speakers are? Do we know what all this stuff does? Social media. Social media is changing music, okay? And you need to accept it and not fight it. That's why at the beginning of this lecture I said, guess what? If you want to shoot me a question over Twitter, go ahead. If you want to send me a question in email, that's cool too. Because multimedia and social media and music technology are like this now, okay? People don't market themselves as musicians, really, in the newspapers anymore. That's not how it gets done. The way you get found, you're not playing in the club, waiting for that mysterious ad exec to come in and see you. Anybody ever hear of SHU? So a little lion kid plays ukulele, super famous. He was on like all the shows. He did this really amazing rendition of While My Guitar Gently Weeps on the ukulele. Next thing you know, he's playing like nationwide tours. He's an 18-year-old kid with a ukulele, and he's playing these tours because somebody saw him on YouTube. Okay? I do recordings. Actually, I've been doing a lot of secret recordings lately because the secret got out that I do these things. How do I send approval copies to people? I make an MP3, I email it to them. What else can I do? I go to SoundCloud. You said you had SoundCloud. What do you use it for?
Well, actually, a couple of my former students have sent me recordings,
Mm-hmm.
so that's how I can.
Yeah, it's great.
What you're doing.
It's super easy way. Let's say you're a performing musician and you want to put your music out there, a demo. Put it on SoundCloud, put SoundCloud clip onto your, embed it into your Facebook, just like you can with a YouTube article. Bam, there's your song online. What about being a teacher? How can we use SoundCloud in the classroom? Any ideas?
Models out there.
Yeah, it's a great way to put models out there. How about this one? Your choir needs to learn its parts. Could you play your part, put it up on SoundCloud, and then they can access it whenever they want at home? What about warm-ups? You know, you got a voice student, a guitar student, whatever instrument you're teaching, and you've got certain exercises you want them to be able to do. Could you put them up for them to use at home, whenever they want, wherever they are? Social media is powerful. And then ethics issues. This is a big thing. The more you get involved in technology, the more different issues come up. So for example, you are doing a big talent show in your school, and one of your kids says, is it okay if I take this pop song and use this computer program that takes the voice out of it, and then I sing it? Is that cool? It's an interesting question. I mean, there's all kinds of copyright rules. There's all kinds of rules of fair usage, but ethical issues are important. You know, what about recording? You know, we talked a little bit early on about Napster. Okay, people who were able to download music for free. It's still out there, by the way. There's all kinds of sites where you can download music for free. Is it right? Just because we can do it. So we'll wrap up by talking about those kinds of issues when we talk about the technology. Okay? So, technology ensures anybody can experience music. You can make it, you can hear it, you can capture it, you can see it. That's what we have the tools for. Any questions today? Did anybody actually go to Twitter?
No, because I got following Twitter.
That's okay, that's fine. We get any emails. Let's take a look. Anybody actually go to email or Twitter? No, somebody from my graduate program did. He said, hey, you've got a new Twitter account.